Good afternoon, and welcome to AIADA's AutoTalk. I'm your host, Rachel Soleimani. Before we get started, a few quick reminders. Anyone who has registered for today's program will be receiving a copy by the end of this week. And if you have any questions, be sure to enter them into the Q&A bar at the lower right-hand side of your interface. Today, we welcome Jack Mata, Strategic Business Development Director at Podium. Jack, I've seen your presentation, and I know you have a lot of great information to share with us today, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Thanks, Rachel. Great to be here, and thank you all for joining. If you're not joining live, thank you for viewing the recording. And, at the end, we'll leave some follow-up material by way of a marketing guide as well as my email if you have any questions. So thank you all. As Rachel said, I'm our Strategic Business Development Director for Podium. I've been with the company for 2 years, working specifically in our auto industry vertical. And today, primarily, we're going to keep it pretty brief, but hope to give you some good information around, what are the various marketing channels that are available to dealerships today. Their marketing channels, but, more importantly, their communication channels, their lead channels. So, first and foremost, what are those? Shouldn't blow any minds there. They're pretty apparent. But more importantly, what are some ways that you can centralize and best manage these? And then to the extent for specific use cases that it's possible, how can you connect these various channels so that from a consumer perspective, it provides a very seamless personal experience that makes it easy to communicate and do business with your dealership. So without further ado, connecting with car shoppers, what we call in the age of convenience. I think the overarching sentiment here is that 43% of consumers are prepared to pay more for a convenient service. We had another survey, I forget the exact metrics, but the younger demographic in the 24 to 35-year-old age range were willing to, pay more, but also travel a further distance to dealerships that gave kind of a digital, very personal, convenient experience. So if you're not kind of optimizing the way that you outreach and communicate with customers, you're likely missing out on, more importantly, kind of this younger demographic that is, every day growing older and becoming readily, better buyers. So understanding your marketing channels, we're not going to talk about Podium today, but just in how we deploy our platform, a lot of the research that we do is what are the best channels to reach customers. And what we've found is it's typically via SMS. Some statistics here, 98% of text messages have a 98% open rate. If you think about marketing campaigns, right, outreaching to your current kind of customer database, text versus, mail versus email. Email typically has a 15% open rate. Physical mail is way lower than that. I mean, text 4X's all those and some. So just by way of open rate, click rate, and response rate and conversion rate, text is going to be your best option. We won't go through all of these, but actually 95% of text messages are open within the first 3 minutes. If you think about your phone, you probably have any number of unopened emails right now, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you don't have any or have very few unopened text messages. That's kind of the power of that. This one's important right here. 75% of consumers are okay with receiving text from brands after they've opted in. If you're going to send a marketing-based message via text, you have to have prior consent per TCPA regulation. Just something to keep in mind. There's a lot of ways you can do that. Happy to have a further discussion at a later date. But the difference is with typical day-to-day business messaging, if a customer has a question about something or you're just doing a day-to-day communication, that's called implied business consent. This would not apply there. But if you're sending marketing messages, just be aware of that. And then on the marketing vein, text messages have a 10% higher coupon redemption rate or conversion rate. So that just goes into the open rate. So, a great channel to communicate and convert and just, stay close to your customers. So the first channel we're going to talk about is your website. Some more statistics. 41% of customers expect to see a chat option when they land on your website. 48% of live chat leads lead to increased revenue per chat. And then 41% of consumers prefer live chat over any other channel. The distinction I want to make here is that not all, for lack of a better term, chat widgets, chat bots, applications on your website that allow a customer to message in, not all of those are created the same. A lot of them are typically just for frequently asked questions. A lot of them are what you would commonly refer to as a chat bot. It's not a real person. There is a space for that, right? Frequently asked questions, to take stuff off your reps' plates. But at a point, a consumer wants to speak with a live person. So even before, a phone call is generated or someone comes into the store, there is an opportunity to connect with that person on a live one-to-one basis via a chat widget, if you will. So as you're looking at providers and as you're figuring out what works best for you, just understand that the quicker you can get that customer in touch with someone who is a live person on the other end, the higher the conversion rate you're going to have. Best practices, I just went over, the first one there. Like I said, include chatbots when necessary. Make sure that the web chat option is easy to see and easy to use. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. The other thing, as I said, you might want to think about is connecting it to text. This is an example over here. You'll see that the customer messages in, leaves their name, phone number, and a message. It immediately converts it to a text message. The reason this is important is the longer your customer via an inquiry has to stay tethered to their computer on your website, the higher chance you're going to have of a dropout rate. By converting these inbound leads through your website to text messages, that customer can then carry that conversation in their pocket on their phone throughout their day, thus increasing the conversion rate, right? And the ideal kind of scenario is they save that number that they've been texted from as a contact in their phone, and now your dealership has become a contact in their phone. So just something to keep in mind as you're kind of optimizing that website experience for your customers. Obviously, phone's a very big channel. 71% of local business customers still have a phone conversation during their purchase journey. That's not very surprising. But when you're looking at phone solutions, these are some things that you should keep in mind. You're going to want to integrate with your existing communication tool like texting. For example, Podium has an option. We're actually rolling this out currently where if a customer calls in and they don't get a response, it would typically go to voicemail. We have a prompt that says, hang on the line to reach our voicemail inbox. If you would like to be contacted via text, press 1. That's an example of connecting two disparate communication channels. Maybe they came in through the website, so it's actually 3, but connecting the phone and the SMS to one seamless experience, just something you might want to keep in mind. This isn't too surprising for dealerships, but intelligent call routing options like call forwarding, phone attendant trees. I'm sure a lot of you do that today, but definitely if you're not, something you want to look at. Maintain privacy and data security for your business and your callers. A big thing that we see are reps, employees, what have you, using their own personal phones. And while that's great for creating relationships with potential customers, it's not secure, it's not private, it's not centralized and able to be managed. More importantly, if that employee leaves your business, you've now lost all of that conversation history and all of that context with the customer conversation that's happened to date. So as best as possible, centralize all these communications, whether phone, email, text, via a single platform. And then provide a log of your call history that can be easily accessed for follow-up conversations. I'm sure a lot of you are doing that today, but the more and more that we can, understand, calls attended to, calls missed, calls outstanding, the calls that did happen, when did they happen? What was the context of that conversation? The more and more we can centralize that and share those conversations between employees, the better served our customers are going to be and the more conversions you will definitely have. And again, connect it to text. I gave the example of kind of the prompt to text instead of voicemail. That's just an option. The other thing is centralize these things. Podium's obviously an inbox where you can centralize all of these communication channels. There's for sure other providers that do that, possibly to a lesser extent, but it's the same idea. The more and more you can consolidate screens, and more importantly, like conversations and lead channels via one inbox, just the better on top of your leads you're going to be, the easier for your employees to kind of respond to these. So definitely keep that in mind. Email, still very powerful. I mentioned the open rate, and it's typically between 19 and 22%. I think I said 15 and 20. I wasn't too far off. A couple of things to keep in mind. This is kind of marketing one-on-one, but I'll run through a few of these. So make sure that if you send email messages, they're mobile friendly, right? That seems simple, but 80% of shoppers are going to check emails on their phone. I'm sure most of you do that. So you want to make sure that the formatting is going to be very clear and shows up well kind of on that mobile app. Next, in terms of subject lines, kind of a few tips. If you want your emails to get read, your copy has to be a high converting subject. Consider using numbers. For this webinar, I might say 5 marketing tips for your dealership. If it's a promo email, say the percentage off, 50% off if you come in today, something like that. And personalize the subject line with your customer's name. There's a lot of cool applications out there where you can actually bulk send these emails, and you can filter in certain fields like a name or an address or something like that. So definitely keep that in mind. Another best practice is the marketing schedule. Nearly 70% of consumers unsubscribe because they're receiving more emails than they would kind of like to receive. In the review space, which Podium does a lot, we call it, review overload. You're going to want to make sure you're not inundating people with marketing emails. I don't need to tell you that. You're consumers in your own right, and I'm sure you've experienced it. Just be very thoughtful of the cadence and the messaging. You obviously want to provide value with the emails that you're sending. That starts with the subject line, but obviously the content and the body of the email, whatever that marketing is, should be a worthwhile 2 minutes to spend for that consumer. Finally, consider other email benchmarks. Beyond just the subject line and, open rates, like what are you trying to achieve? For example, a poor email click-through rate or a low conversion rate may indicate that your customers aren't seeing much value from your emails altogether, which I kind of just mentioned. So take a closer look into your email list. If you notice subscribers are listing as hard bounces, take them off. Only keep people that are actually viewing your content, and you'll be better served, and it'll actually free up time for your employees. And as I said, connect it to text. This is kind of a common theme, but very quick way to start generating those opt-in databases to then legally begin to further reach out to customers. So don't let a good email campaign, a good text campaign, a good mailer campaign go to waste. Always try to ask for those opt-ins for future reach out. Social media. So just a few statistics, 55% of consumers learn about new brands on social media. That's not surprising. 68% of consumers agree that social media enables them to interact with brands and companies. 78% of consumers are willing to buy from a company after having a positive experience. We don't need to go too deep into social media. It's obviously very important. I will say that from personal experience, if I'm looking up a brand on Instagram to buy a new pair of shoes, for example, the more and more I see them, the more likely I am to take that next step to either contact them or buy their product. And again, you don't want to over inundate people, but you do want consumers, especially in local markets, to know who you are. So whether it's Facebook Marketplace, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Apple Business Chat, Google Chat, all of these quote unquote social media channels can be marketing channels for your business. But to make it efficient, you want to make sure that you centralize the ability for your employees to interact with leads that come in through those channels via one platform. Podium's the way to do that. There are other providers that do that. You can connect the lead channels to actually send the messages out from a centralized platform. It will make your life a lot easier. I won't go over these, but just a few things to kind of, think about in kind of sending these social media messages. Um, a good place to start is Facebook Messenger and Facebook Marketplace, but I'm sure that a lot of you use Twitter, Instagram, like I mentioned. Make sure you're being thoughtful in your outreach. And again, connect it to text. I mentioned this earlier, but we think about centralizing these communication channels. I know I've said it a lot, but it's very important. The same inbox you use to text a customer, to send a customer a review, to create a marketing campaign, you can also leverage your social channels on that. So when we're talking about consolidation of screens, which I've definitely noticed is a big initiative kind of in the dealership industry right now, it's definitely something to keep in mind. So the last one are reviews and referrals. These are very important, right? And this is a marketing web chat, or excuse me, a marketing webinar, and reviews are definitely a marketing item, a marketing metric, but it's what reviews produce that are really important to dealerships, and it's typically increased lead activity, increased conversation with customers, more customers in your dealership, more conversions, and more revenue. So just a few statistics, 93% of consumers say online reviews have an impact on their purchase decision, not surprising. 65% of consumers have read an online review in the last week, not surprising. Approximately half of consumers are willing to travel farther and pay more to patronize a business with higher reviews. I mentioned that on the first slide. You want to ensure that your business is well represented online, right? To the extent that someone types in best, Ford dealer near me, best Mitsubishi dealer near me, um, only businesses that have higher than a 4-star rating will actually show up in that search. And in what's called the Google Map Pack, which is the top 3 results, you'll notice if you type in that search, best Mitsubishi dealership near me, there'll be a group of 3 dealerships that show up top. Those are going to be the dealers that rank highest in Google's review algorithm, which is typically based on star rating, total number of reviews, total number of recent reviews, and how many reviews they're responding to. So if you don't have a review generation and a review management program in place, you should definitely think about doing that because you're losing leads. We've directly attributed here at Podium that increased review metrics based on what I just said directly affects like website clicks, people clicking the call button, people clicking to find out your directions, and then actually people, showing up in your store. That's the lead activity I mentioned. So, talk to the customer, say, hey, I'm going to send you this review via text. The customer sitting there, they leave the review without even leaving the dealership. They're seeing a 50% conversion rate, which is about 5 times higher than we typically see. So again, just a way to manually implement processes and ask, every customer within your business to leave a review. It's gonna generate more leads. Respond to all reviews, positive and negative. This is going to boost your SEO. And feature positive reviews on your website. So there's different widgets you can use to take a Google review and actually populate it on your website. If I'm a consumer that's going to your website, I'm seeing this positive reaction. It's just going to make me more likely to take that next step, right? Which is contact your business. So again, connect it to text. 98% open rate we mentioned in the beginning. Whether it's a marketing campaign, whether it's leaving a review, you want to make sure that it gets looked at and clicked on. Text is the most efficient way to do that. So just a shameless plug here at the end. Podium is a communication platform that does a lot of this. We're used by over 7,000 dealers in the US. We're partnered with over 13 OEMs. We do everything from review generation to web chat to mobile-based payments, marketing campaigns. We have a new phone system product, both soft and hard phones. We can do SMS type NPS survey feedback. Again, all via a central platform and all that is going to touch on kind of those marketing channels with the goal of creating a very positive, personal customer experience to then increase conversion rate based on the conversations that you're having. So again, this just highlights kind of our exposure. 1 in 3 cell phone users. We're probably used by a lot of your peers. Would love to have a conversation. Thank you for your time today. I hope that was brief enough. This will be sent out following. I think Rachel Soleimani will give all the details on that, but this link will give you access to a really great marketing guide that'll kind of discuss what we just went over. And then to the extent you have questions or would like to just have a conversation, I would love to chat. Please feel free to shoot me an email and we can find time to do that. So, Rachel, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you for the time. And yeah, let me know of any questions.
Jack, thanks so much for joining us today. And like you said, I'll be sure to send out this link for the SMS marketing guide when we send out the recording later this week. To those on the line, join us back here on Tuesday, April 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern as Kerrigan Advisors presents the 2023 Buy-Sell Market Outlook. So be on the lookout for promotions on how to register. For more information about AIADA, visit aiada.org. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day, everyone.